What are you most afraid of in skating? Is it a rational or an irrational fear? How does it affect your progress or your comfort on the skates or the skateboard? And most importantly, what can you do to either overcome it or at least lessen its impact on your progress? Stick around and let's talk about my fears and maybe something that I do can help you overcome your fears. So let's talk about it. If you're new to my channel, welcome. And to give you a little background, I've been inline skating now. This is September of 2024, so this is 1 year for me. I started inline skating with my son last September. So I've been on the inlines for a year, and I've probably worked on coming back on the skateboard kind of seriously now, maybe 4 or 5 months. So I skated when I was young, kind of skated off and on my whole life, but I've been working on the skateboard, which I'm on today, kind of more serious now, about 4 or 5 months. And I have to say, I have two big fears that kind of been driving my progress this whole time. I think everybody has a fear. There's a generic fear of falling. If you skate, you probably fear falling at some level, but I think it's way more nuanced than that. And I think there's a lot of complexity to fear. So let's talk about how my fears have affected my progress and what, if anything, I can do about them in the future. I would say for me, I have two main fears. One I consider rational, meaning it's really hard to do something about and it affects everything. And the other one's kind of an irrational fear. And what I mean by that is it's a fear that I can do something about, and over time I have done something about. So let's talk about those two fears and how you can maybe lessen the impact of a rational fear and overcome the impact of an irrational fear. Now, the fear that I consider irrational is a fear of falling backwards. I hate falling backwards. Probably is the reason why I'm more afraid to try bigger and bigger drop-ins. I would say that's my biggest issue with a drop-in, is I fear falling backwards and I hate it. But there's something I can do about it. And what I can do about it is work my way up. Start small and work my way up. Work on my balance, work on my technique. And so that, while I have fallen backwards a few times, it's not near as bad as it used to be. The fear is not as bad as it used to be. And the one thing I can do about it for me is I can just work my way up. Start small and work my way up. And that's probably the best way to handle any fear that you consider irrational fear. Now, my second fear is a little more pervasive, and it stems from the fact that I have a knee injury. I injured my knee in my 20s in a motorcycle accident, and the subsequent surgery and over the years has caused me to have some pretty severe arthritis in that knee. And that in itself doesn't really drive the fear. That's just painful. But my fear is doing a split. I'm terrified of doing a split. And I'll tell you why. Well, I've had fairly significant injuries this year 3 different times. I've torn my hamstring on my right leg, or excuse me, on my left leg. I tore my MCL on my left leg, and I've sprained my knee on my right leg, which that knee is my bad knee. All 3 of those were because I did a split. And so that's, I don't know, I consider that a rational fear. And the reason I consider that a rational fear is because I feel like there's going to come a point with that knee where I'm going to injure it and I'm not going to be able to recover from it. That knee is already, like I said, it's got really bad arthritis. It hurts all the time, but I'm just really scared that there's going to come a day when I'm going to injure it to the point that it's not going to recover. Now, how does that fear affect my everyday skating? Yeah, I've got a fear of doing the splits, but what does that mean in my day-to-day skating and my progress? And I would say the biggest issue it causes me is on the skateboard, just being up on the coping. I'm afraid that one foot's going to go down the wall and one foot's going to stay on top of the wall. And I'm going to slide down and do a split. And the other is on the inline skates, exactly the same reason. And you actually have a little less control over it, where I'm afraid to do, let's say, a backside stall because I'm afraid I'm going to turn around, one foot's going to go on top of the wall, one foot's going to slide down the wall, which I have done before. So it's more about kind of foot position and being in the right place, and that's how that fear kind of manifests itself in my lack of progress in those things. And so the question now becomes, is there a way to overcome that fear, or to have that fear have less impact on my progress? And I think the answer to overcoming it is no. At least for me, I don't think I'll ever get over the fear of hurting that knee to the point where I can't recover. That knee has been injured for so long. I've babied it, and I've gotten by for probably way more years than I should have with the amount of damage that's done to that leg. So I don't think I'm ever going to get over that fear, but that doesn't mean I can't do anything about it. Sort of like the irrational fear of falling backwards. What I can do for this, and I just have to take it even slower, is I just have to build my way up. I have to work my way into tricks. It's just this takes longer. I've been working on some of these tricks now, going on a year, and my son probably has mastered them in 2 months, and I'm still working on them because of that fear. But I just have to work my way up. I have to feel more confident about trying them. I have to feel a lot more comfortable on the skates, on the skateboard, to kind of get over that fear of doing the splits. And I've been doing mobility work. That gives me a little more confidence, but it doesn't really take away the fear. But just starting slow and kind of working my way, which is something that I'm really concentrating on lately, is the way I'm approaching this fear of doing the splits. So what does all this mean for you as a skater? I think number one is just don't worry that you have fear. I don't think anybody skates, even the pros sometimes tell you, you know, there's things that scare them. I think having fear is a normal part of any sport, really, especially a sport where there's a good chance of falling and getting hurt. So number one is don't be afraid of your fears. Don't let your fears rule you. And two is, you know, try to find a way around them. Again, I think probably the biggest way to do that is to just start slow. You know, don't go for the big things right off. Work your way up to them until you feel comfortable or more comfortable. Certainly there's going to come a point where you have an irrational fear, and you're just going to have to kind of take a leap of faith and go for it. But if you have a rational fear, if you have an injury that's haunting you, if you have just some physical limitation, then there's certainly going to come a time when there are things you shouldn't do. And there's no shame in backing off of those and just deciding that, hey, this particular trick or this particular thing is not for me. This particular style of riding may not for me. Maybe, you know, maybe park riding is not for you. Maybe you want to skate urban or street skating and you don't want to skate transition. So, and that's perfectly fine. I would just say, you know, analyze your reasons for being afraid and work on a way to overcome it. I'd love to hear in the comments something that you're afraid of. I'm sure everybody has at least one fear that's kind of the driver for their lack of progress or their lack of comfort on the board or their skate. So let me know in the comments what your main fear is and how you've either overcome it or how you're working on overcoming that. I'd love to hear that. So in the end, I think you know, the biggest takeaway from this is, for whatever fear you have, start with the basics. Work your way up, build your confidence over time, build your trick repertoire over time, and don't bite off more than you can chew. Yeah, like I said, there's certainly gonna come a time when sometimes you just have to face that fear and go for it, like maybe your first drop in or your first big 180 or something off a wall. But if you've prepared yourself well, that kind of fear is a transient thing. You'll get up there, you'll be scared, you'll do your drop in, and it'll be over. And it'll get better and better over time. So that would be the biggest piece of advice I could offer, is just start slow, build yourself up, build your confidence level, and that should help alleviate any fears that you have. So I hope this was helpful to you guys, and in some way I hope that maybe you can overcome your fears. Again, let me know in the comment if you've had some fears that you've had trouble with and how you overcame them. So thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it, and until then, we will see you on the next one.